In this video, I will be demonstrating how to do beam analysis using uniTank. Before we do beam analysis, we need to rename the columns that aren't actually columns. You can see how cleanly uniTank automatically detects the columns. We need to rename the gauges and the ladder supports to something that does not contain the word column. What the beam analysis algorithm does is it uses the structural columns to determine how many rings of rafters there are and where the girders are. So, if we leave the column definitions as they are, we will get 3 rings of rafters instead of 1. Now that is done, we can run the automatic beam analysis tool. This tool will take some time to run, depending on your hardware capabilities and the number of girders or rafters you have. You can run individual rafters or girders, or an entire ring of rafters. During beam analysis, we use the scan locations to determine which side of the beam we see. We also filter out data points directly above the scanner because these areas exhibit higher levels of mixed pixel errors. If you registered your data outside of uniTank, depending on the software you used, we may or may not have the scan location information. If this is the case, simply click the Ignore Origin Informations checkbox during beam analysis. Once the beam analysis is complete, we can review the output results for each beam. Pay attention to the cross-sections found at the bottom of each beam chart. These will indicate whether uniTank was able to properly detect the web-to-flange intersection and the tilt of the beam. If some beams were not correctly analyzed, there are 2 manual ways to redo the specific beam. The first is to manually delineate the beam. Using the line tool, we trace the beam from inside to outside, toggling between top and bottom view to ensure we have the correct horizontal and vertical positioning. This method will not analyze twist. The second method is to manually define the beam deflection. Using the line tool, we will identify 3 data points: the start and end of the beam, and the point of greatest deflection. This method is useful for nonlinear beams and where we need to define all the beams manually. This method will only analyze horizontal and vertical deflection at the point of greatest deflection that was identified.